Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of digital fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn, and today we're back at it with another leaked spoiler video for a brand new leaked spoiler for Edge of Eternities. This set is looking kind of insane the more that we see from it. Not only do we have a crazy new leak, which happens to be an Eldrazi, we do have another official card to go over as well, and we're probably going to do that first. Before we dive in, please like the video. It helps me get it out to so many more people and helps the channel grow, and be sure to subscribe because there is a ton more content on the way. I've got some crazy deck techs on the way, and of course, anytime there are spoilers or leaks, we're going to hit the ground running and get that stuff out to you ASAP. These two cards are pretty awesome. The leaked card, which is going to be second, is even crazier than the first card I'm going to show you. But we are going to start here with Alpharael. I think it's Alpharael, Dreaming Acolyte, a 2/3 legendary human cleric for 3 mana in the colors of Dimir. And when he enters, you draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. Also, during your turn, Alpharael has Death Touch. This guy is actually really cool. Very similar to cards we've been seeing pop up in sets recently. Stuff like the new Kiora that lets you draw 2, discard 2. Terso lets you discard 2, draw 2. We just got Joshua in the Final Fantasy set that lets you discard 2, draw 2. So we're seeing a lot of these 3-drop creatures that specifically let you draw 2, discard 2. This is an interesting twist, though, because it reinforces the idea that artifacts are coming back in a huge way in this set, where if you weren't convinced by now, you absolutely should be. Seeing that you can only discard 1 card here if you end up discarding an artifact gives it a little bit more value. It turns it into not just card selection, but also card advantage, just straight up. The card that you discard is kind of being replaced just by the body itself that you're getting. And then you're also still keeping a card in your hand, so pretty crazy. I actually think this guy, he might not be quite good enough for Standard because Standard is pushed to high hell these days. But I actually think he's really good for an uncommon. I think he's going to be pretty sweet in Limited. I'm excited to see what kind of artifact synergies are coming in the rest of the set because it's pretty obvious, right? It's pretty obvious that there are going to be a lot. And this guy kind of just plays into that. You know, if you have a lot of artifacts in your deck, it's just straight up card advantage in addition to the selection, and I just kind of love that. It is worth pointing out that it only has Death Touch on your turn, so it's only really relevant when attacking. So it's a Dimir card that cares about artifacts, that also wants to be super aggressive, but doesn't have the most aggressively statted body. It's kind of interesting, it's kind of weird, but we can sort of get some insights into what their thoughts are, pursuing, you know, building out this set and what it means, especially for Limited, as a cohesive set. And there's some interesting stuff going on for sure. It's also worth pointing out it's a cleric. Is cleric tribal coming back in a big way? I guess we're gonna have to find out when they finally spoil the whole set. But the leaked card that we have to talk about is way crazier. And some of you guys may have already seen this making its rounds on the web. This is Anticausai Vestige, a 7/5 Eldrazi. When this creature leaves the battlefield, draw a card, then you may put a permanent card with mana value less than or equal to the number of lands you control from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. And it costs 6 colorless mana to play, which already reinforces the idea that we're getting even more like colorless support. We saw Ugin a couple sets ago that really wants a colorless deck to exist, and it seems like every set now we're getting a couple really good cards that are pushing closer and closer to that being a thing in Standard. But what really makes this card crazy is the fact that it has Warp 4 and it actually has the reminder text to explain warps, so we know exactly how warp works now. So you may cast this card from your hand for its warp cost, and then exile this creature at the beginning of the next end step, and then in exile, it is a warped creature in exile, and you may cast it from exile on a later turn. So it's kind of like Foretell mixed with, what was the name of that mechanic? Why can't I remember the name of that mechanic now? Where you play it as the creature and it sacrifices itself if you pay the lesser cost. It's used in Scam all the time. I can't remember the name of the mechanic for the life of me, so if you remember, let me know in the comments. Also, apparently the pumpkin decided to come and play. Hi pumpkin. We're doing important work, pumpkin. But yeah, this is really interesting, I think, because not only do you pay this cheaper cost and get some value up front, but then it goes to exile and can just be played later from exile for its hard cast cost. It's worth pointing out too, it does note in the reminder text, you may cast this card from your hand for its warp cost. So you can't just, you know, put it into warped into exile at the end of your turn and then play it from exile with its warp cost again and do it every turn. You do have to then hard cast it for its actual cost and put it onto the battlefield forever. But you get a lot of value off this guy. It almost reminds me a little bit of that card in Eldrazi that was a 4-mana enchantment that lets you play 2 cards a turn and only 2 cards a turn, but they were free if their cost was less than or equal to the number of lands you control. It kind of feels a little bit like that. Fires of Invention, that's the card. I built a whole Super Friends deck around it, and I completely forgot the name. I'm tired today, guys. I apologize. It's a Saturday. It's a Saturday, and I'm exhausted, and I don't normally do videos on Saturdays, but this was too crazy, and I had to get it out there. So we know exactly what Warp is. We've already seen some cards leaked that interact with warped creatures. So you could play this for 4, put a 4-drop from your hand into play, draw a card so you get card advantage. At the end of your turn, it leaves the battlefield, and then it's in exile. Later on, you can play it for 6. It's a creature that stays there, interacts with their board, maybe trades with one of their creatures, and then when it leaves the battlefield again, you get to draw a card and put another permanent card from your hand into play. This time, probably a more expensive one because you'll have more lands on the battlefield. So it is a pretty insane amount of value baked into this card, which makes sense. It's rare. It'll be really interesting to see some of the commons and uncommons that have this warp ability. But the other thing I really want to point out about this, and the thing that I think is going to really break this wide open, is the fact that it doesn't go away right away. It hits the battlefield, it stays there for the entire turn, and then it gets exiled at the end of your turn. And normally this wouldn't really matter. You might say, Cap, it doesn't have haste, who cares? But you can use flicker effects on this thing because it's sitting on the battlefield until the end of your turn. If you flicker it, it counts as leaving the battlefield. So every single time that you flicker it, you are going to draw an extra card and put another permanent onto the battlefield, which gets kind of crazy. In fact, if you have that 3-drop Angel that flickers something when it enters the battlefield, you could play this for Warp 4, play the Angel for free. The Angel could immediately flicker this. It comes back. You get another thing. I don't know, man. It could get really crazy. And also, if you flicker this, it loses track of the fact that you paid the warp cost to play it. So put this out, flicker it, get it to trigger its leaves the battlefield ability, get free value, draw a card, it comes back, it stays as the creature forever. And if you want to really push it to its limits, you can use the new Y'shtola rule card that came in the Final Fantasy set, a 6-drop for 2 blue and 4, and it gets to flicker something at the end of your turn, but it also gives you 2 end steps. So you could flicker this thing twice and get 2 triggers off of it, which is also pretty insane. And since it cares about the number of lands that are on the battlefield, and that's what determines what thing you get for free. And we know there's a ton of ramp coming in this set in the form of these new lander tokens that we saw in the last spoiler video, which if you guys haven't seen all of the spoiler videos, I want to make sure and link them in the descriptions and in the comments. Definitely check those out so you have a better idea of what we're talking about here. But it should be a lot easier to ramp up, even in colors outside of green, with the new lander token mechanic that's introduced. So you should be able to get to even more lands to get even more triggers for this. What will be interesting to see is how prevalent this mechanic is, specifically with triggers like this. Is this the only one that cares about lands? Is there a whole subset of cards that all care about lands when they're being warped? Because if so, that could be an archetype. But maybe this is just the one that cares about lands, and the other ones, who knows? Maybe they all have completely different abilities. I'm pretty sure they are going to all have some sort of enters or leaves the battlefield sort of ability to make use of when you warp them. But it's going to be really interesting to see what direction they go with the rest of the warp cards. But this card is nuts, man. And the fact that Eldrazi are back is nuts. And there's even been some rumors swirling about slivers possibly returning in this set, and I don't have any concrete information on that yet. So if you've heard about that, let me know what all the hubbub is in the comments below. And if I get to the bottom of that, I'll make sure to make another video and let you guys know. But that's going to do it for today. Thank you guys so much for checking out the video. Like I said before, please like the video. It just takes a second, and it helps me more than you could possibly ever imagine. So huge thanks to those of you that have been liking the video every single time. Subscribe if you're new so you don't miss the next drop. And I'll see you guys next time. I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Wonders of the First. Wonders of the First is a brand new collectible card game similar to games like Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon, featuring a unique action-based resource economy that helps avoid pitfalls like Mana Flood or Mana Screw, and a battlefield containing multiple realms that unlock over time as you fight for control of the stones. The first 400 card set is called Existence, and they've even partnered with Star City Games to host their competitive play tour at every single SCG-Con event starting in August. The game contains alternate borderless art variants, as well as highly sought-after limited edition numbered prints, culminating in a one-of-one stone foil. And the best part is that the developers have a community-first approach, with a card database and deck builder available via Cardio, as well as a version of the game available on Tabletop Simulator, all for free. For more information, be sure to check out wondersccg.com today. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck text, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.